Michigan has, which is that in order for a business to open and get a license, you have to have the city or township opt in. California has surprisingly not a lot of, like Compton, not opted in. Los Angeles, yes. Los Angeles is big and it gives the appearance that there's a lot of cannabis businesses, but you go like all over the state, there's not that many. It's still like 10, 15%, right? And because of that, there's not, a resource of a place to go in this community. Doesn't mean, every time a city opts out, it doesn't stop a cannabis user from getting their cannabis. They're still going to get it, and they're going to get it for the best price it is. It's just no money going to that city. So Michigan's dealing with that problem too. There's very little inventory, which is inflating the prices, and the system's overly regulated. And the biggest problem I think for the retailers is they're getting killed on the 280E stuff. They're trying to comply. They're following the rules. Tell me how much taxes to pay. Oh, I have to pay all. And what do they get for doing that? And that's the other incentive I think that the federal government has. That's a lot of extra money, tax-based, if they're going to do that. As long as it stays Schedule 1, those retail, those businesses, I don't know if it's that much money, but in the grand scheme of things.
What it does, it just, as you're saying, it continues the black market. It continues kids getting shot, selling marijuana and all the other drugs. And this is the equivalent in 2020 of dry counties. Across the South, you've got whole counties in Tennessee where you can't buy any alcohol because it's a dry county. This is the equivalent of that. And between that and the income tax problem, you still have a thriving black market. My CPA friend told me that if they were allowed to have normal write-offs of their business expenses, the retail price would drop 30%.
Absolutely.
So, and we want to destroy the black market. That's the whole purpose of legalization. But for your listeners, understand that an excessive tax is the same end result as prohibition.
Sure.
And
absolutely.
As an example, Norway has horrific taxes compared to Sweden and Denmark. So there is robust smuggling of alcohol into Norway. And it's a criminal enterprise, and they make lots of money off it, and there's violence associated with the alcohol smuggling in Norway. So excessive taxes is the exact same result as prohibition.
I mean, there's a lot of trends that are taking place state to state. Some other states have been more advanced, and there's patterns that are happening. For example, Michigan's got a shortage of cannabis now because it can't get the licenses in the places, whereas other states have gotten past that, and they've exorbitant amounts, too much on the shelves, and the prices have come down, right? So you've got these different variables that are happening. One that came up, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's a lot of lab scandals that are taking place. A lot of new technology coming in, inflated THC, because that's the end, that's like the more desirable. And even some of the different techniques that are used, there's lawful in some states, they're not lawful in others. They're giving a pass when it's really it's got mold or doesn't meet it. Have you heard about this in other states and like a dirty commercial market? The licenses just means there's still payoffs and, stuff you don't want to hear about. Is that happening elsewhere?
Well, certainly across the country, you've got unscrupulous operators of medical marijuana and regular marijuana shops who are breaking the regulations of too much fertilizer, too much pesticides, whatever, too much mold, and their products are tainted. Sometimes the government regulators catch them, sometimes they don't. And this is part of the growing pains. You can expect that. And as long as there's a black market, you're going to have that conflict. By the way, for what it's worth, there have been studies show that a consumer will be willing to pay a slightly higher price for legal, regulated, government-checked marijuana versus the black market, but they won't pay double.
And because it certifies to a certain degree this safety, whatever that means. And my thing is it's if you've got these labs that are nefarious and they're able to pass stuff that is not worthy of passing, you get sort of like a consumer protection problem almost. I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying that, and of course no one's ever died of smoking moldy marijuana, but if you're getting it in a commercial market and you're paying the price, it's supposed to come as they've promised you or whatnot. Here's a question I'm curious to what your thoughts are. We've debated this a little bit, but Ann Arbor recently decriminalized psilocybin mushrooms, medical mushrooms. And Interestingly, the county prosecutor supports it. You don't usually get that combination because you usually have,
Correct.
maybe at most, like if they're, they have to report it to the local police, or they have a choice of taking it to the county prosecutor, the local prosecutor, whatever. But now you have the county prosecutor. He didn't say I'm not going to prosecute that, but now we have the situation, or that's one scenario, and I want to kind of tie it into this other. Where was the place that they just started allowing for? That was it wasn't needle exchanges, but like facilities to go in for treatment.
Safe injection site?
Safe injection site.
Yes, but they were talking about. All right, so yes, let's say that's it. They have safe injection sites. Did some state just do that? Pass something about that? I don't know.
No.
But all right, so no, somebody just decriminalized.
Oregon.
Yes, thank you. Oregon, right? They just right, and their policy was they'll offer you treatment, they won't arrest you, and there's a facility you can come to use your drugs, right? So now you have that scenario. They're moving in that direction. How do they get their drugs now? Right? I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they get their drugs obviously from the cartels, the black market.
Right. So I'm saying, what's the future of this? How are we going to do this? How are we going to end that? Because if you're really going to treat that drug treatment person with compassion, put them in an environment where they can just make the decision, get their shit together so they can quit, which is what we want to do. How are they going to get their treatment? You see what I'm saying?
Well, they get their treatment through the program where you see a health assessment committee that will offer you treatment outpatient if you need it. But understand that the only way to get rid of the cartels and the black market and get these products safe is to legalize and regulate all drugs. But the people are nowhere near ready to legalize and regulate heroin, crack, meth.
Right.
So the next step from criminalization is decrim. Like in Oregon, it's now a civil infraction. You are not under arrest for 1 second, and it's a $100 civil fine. And like a parking ticket, it goes on nobody's record. You don't have any problems with voting, check the box, employment, your gun rights are taken away. This is a big, big step forward. And of course, our profession fought this tooth and nail because they're going to lose millions of dollars in overtime, civil asset forfeiture, court time, etc. The prosecutors fought it, and the drug treatment industry fought Oregon tooth and nail because it's going to destroy their business model. Because the judge says, do you want to do 6 months in jail or 6 months of outpatient treatment, called the drug courts? So when you choose the drug courts, that's $2,000 or so a month to that company. It's for profit. To go get your treatment, whether you need it or not. So those industries fought it, but the good people of Oregon, 58-42, said, we want to do decrim, simple possession. And by the way, for your listeners, simple possession of, say, cocaine, 2 grams. That's like 2 packets of sweetener. It's almost nothing, but that's the limit for a personal amount, and that's about right, by the way. And that's going to be the new law in Oregon next year. And for me, it's a shot heard around the world, and it's the next big thing in drug reform after marijuana to end the drug war. As you know, our profession last year arrested 1.4 million people for simple possession, only 200,000 for sales. So the heart and soul of the drug war is arresting people for simple possession, and this leads into the whole idea and scandal of mass incarceration, which more and more Democrats are calling for an end to. Well, the drug war and simple possession are the biggest component of mass incarceration.
Howard, I know you're like you got some cowboy in you, so I want to call you unequivocally the trailblazer. I'm saying, look, he's got a shirt on that says cocaine and heroin. Cops say cocaine, and I'll say to you this, that as we've encountered each other, and I've heard of you and Staleep and whatnot, in the gathering of individuals over the cannabis reform, you really can't fully understand it unless you understand the evils of prohibition, which is the message, right? It's that prohibition doesn't work. It's not for law enforcement. We need to treat this as public health. Now, not everybody gets it. You know what I mean? Not everyone's okay with heroin, crack, and cocaine being legal. And you're right. This is a phenomenal event, and it will be the future. And I agree with you. And with that being said, and those statistics that were abusing the user instead of the seller, we've got to create a method for them to get it. Crack, heroin, methamphetamine, PCP, I don't know, whatever it is, whatever those, Who is going to
whatever.
do it? Are we going to give it to the pharmaceuticals, or are we going to start giving out licenses like they do for marijuana, medical marijuana, recreational? What say you? I'm just curious. Where do you see this if you had your magic wand?
Yeah, if I were the king, I would, and I'm a libertarian, I would simply put these things in stores with the same rules and regulations as whiskey, the same controls. You know, police officers come into bars and make sure there's no underage kids. They go into liquor stores and make sure that everything's done properly, that there's sanitary conditions. That is the role of law enforcement going forward in my world. But I would have capitalism being used like you have with going to a Myers that sells alcohol and tobacco, the two deadliest drugs in America. It can be done safely. And of course, that's the irony when people see my T-shirt about legalized heroin, they go, oh, that we'll just pick up all the dead bodies. Actually, no, legal heroin is as dangerous as whiskey. But the Swiss have given out over 10 million doses of pure heroin in their treatment program over the last 26 years, and nobody has died. Because legal heroin is diacetylmorphine, and it's dangerous, but it doesn't have to kill you if you know what you're getting.
And where are they getting their source from? Are they getting just bringing it from? I mean, how does the government get their hands on that to treat that if it's pure heroin like you're talking about?
The government of Switzerland buys about 100 kilos of pure heroin from a lab in the UK every year for their patients in the 25 clinics across Switzerland. Switzerland is the world's leader in heroin addiction treatment, copied now in 8 countries in Europe. Highly successful. And in 26 years, not one person has died of an overdose. Imagine that.
Is it synthetic heroin, or are they actually from the like? It must be imported from like Afghanistan or something like that, where the lab gets it, or
you start with your raw opium,
right, okay,
coming out of Afghanistan or whatever, and then you process it at the lab in the UK, and it comes out. Only heroin is simply very strong morphine. It's like about 4 times stronger than the morphine you get from the doctor when you break your arm and you go to the hospital. There's nothing magical about it, and it's officially called diacetylmorphine. And it's not scary. It's not complicated. It's just the American public is nowhere near ready because they've been fed propaganda from the government for 50 years about, well, all these drugs are dangerous and will kill you. That's not true. They're dangerous, yes, but they don't necessarily have to kill you. If it's the same thing as, look, if you drink moonshine, you can go blind or die, and we all know that. So most of us don't drink moonshine. We'd rather buy a more expensive whiskey at the store because then we know it's been government inspected. Same thing with heroin or all these other dangerous drugs. They're dangerous, but if it's a pure cocaine or a pure amphetamine, they're dangerous, but not necessarily deadly.
Interesting. Is it so? Obviously, in the idea that the core chemicals needed to produce pharmaceutical drugs are things like opium and poppy. The poppy. So the interest to keep these farms going that are serving both the black market, that's causing a heroin problem, cheaper on the streets than pharmaceuticals, is also being grown in the same fields that the government's protecting to sell to pharmaceutical companies that are using it and selling through, right? I mean, that's essentially what we're doing. And that should not be a shock to people, in that the same farmer on one end of his farm may be selling out to some illegal processing that goes in some direction, ends up as, street heroin, and out the other side you have some pharmaceutical rep that's buying up, certain, and this is going on, and at one end of the field you may have a U.S. soldier even guarding it, right? This has been going on, and this is part of the game. I mean, I just think it's just fascinating that you got a government program that's, how could that go on unless there's someone protecting the field and ensuring the crop is supplied for the purchase at the end of the year for the pharmaceutical company that's doing this, processing for the Swiss patients that you've been describing.
Yeah, there was an idea about 10 years ago that the U.S. government, to help out, because the number one source of money for terrorists around the world is the sale of illegal drugs, right? Including North Korea and some of our bad actors. And there was an idea, they said, let's go into Afghanistan next year and buy up all the opium in the country and then turn it into morphine to give to our hospitals or give it away for foreign aid. And somebody says, well, that sounds like you're supporting the idea of air. It didn't fly, but the idea was sound to stop giving money to terrorists, just buy the entire crop. But, you know, rational ideas often don't sell it for politicians. But by the way, before I forget, I had a great conversation today with my Republican lobbyist colleague. And, you know, the MORE Act is symbolically great, but on a practical level, I got to tell you, it's almost irrelevant that the Senate's not going to pass it. Why? Because ever since Barack Obama in 2013 and the memo, and now 4 years of Trump, the federal government is leaving all the states alone. Nobody's getting busted by the DEA or the FBI if you're a regular good marijuana store. So it's almost irrelevant what if we pass that bill, because we have de facto 10th Amendment already. The states are doing whatever the hell they want. You got 36 states now with medical, 15 with recreational, you know, adult use, and the feds are staying at the office. So almost, who cares if we pass the MORE Act and put it on the president's desk?
And as far as the interest of the incoming administration, because, you know, let's be honest, Joe Biden was a drug warrior. You know, he passed a lot of really bad laws. I don't know if he's gotten into the bad.
Passed one of the worst.
The worst, and he's defended it. He's defended it too. And you know, whatever. I'm not judging him. Whatever. I guess it sounds like I am. But you know, there was a debate too at the platform agreed to for the Bernie and the left and the right to support him. In the dark of night, I think the cannabis issue was not part of the platform. A lot of promises were made. Is he going to be a leader on that, or is he going to be quiet? And secondly, and equally as important, where do you really think Kamala Harris is on this? Because she has not been a advocate, I would say, for many, many years. She was kind of the opposite. It's been politically, convenient, I think, to change her views these days. But, so what do you think about Biden first, and where do you think, how influential, or does it matter how Kamala feels about it?
Biden, as you said, has been the biggest drug warrior on the Hill, responsible for a lot of pain, suffering, and death. He has a lot to make up for. He may, I believe he has turned a corner there, if for no other reason. He's seen the great failure and suffering and death of what he caused from his get tough on drugs approach over 40 years. Kamala Harris, obviously, as you say, a latecomer, but she's a consummate politician. She's reading the people, and that's why she's now foursquare for two things. One, legalize, regulate marijuana, and two, do what we can to end the mass incarceration and the drug war in general, which means basically, as Mr. Biden said in the last debate, we should be treating people versus incarcerating people. And I think Ms. Harris, Senator Harris, will carry that across the goal line and push Joe Biden the way Biden pushed Obama on gay marriage. And as a politician, you know where the people are on this. So you want to get reelected as vice president or move on up to president. You got to keep your constituents happy. And the Democrats are all in favor of at least decrim. And we saw that with the Oregon vote of 58-42. So politically, this is a no-brainer. And Senator Harris is a political animal. She is following the people wherever they want to go.
I know she's got a great lack of memory factor. I mean, I can't help but to remember those two debating each other, and only knowing from Joe Biden one of his most clear moments saying, Google Kamala Harris, 1,000 drug convictions overturned or whatever. Like, I didn't know about that, but and as a lawyer and her as an attorney general and her not doing that, we have like, there's one choice of what you're supposed to do in that situation. There's no other choice. She did not make the right choice. As a lawyer, I have Right. So she's got a lot to make up.
Right.
And you know what? If there was some hope here, I could see, if I may just offer my thoughts. If Biden's been very thoughtful in his appointments so far, I could almost see him doing some kind of like, you could see him picking a certain person, put him in charge of the DOJ or something like that, or moving some of that administration, and they move the ball. They transform the agency, and and by that data and whatever it comes from, well, now they're and that kind of changes the tone. But I don't think, unfortunately, it's the number one issue with all this stuff going on. It could be, It could be a big issue. It could actually be beneficial for a lot of reasons. But I don't think it's in the, we're in a restore to normalcy kind of, whatever. I think that's the messaging, that is appealing to most, whatever. I don't know. But
right. Well, let me just say that I had a good chat with Senator Harris's aide last week on 2021. Her aide who handles criminal justice matters, and I said, look, just put it in her ear to give to Biden. All he has to do is tell the new DEA guy or gal that just deschedule marijuana and put it the same place in the federal position as alcohol and tobacco, which is a de facto 10th Amendment, and that solves your marijuana problem into the 90th percentile, and you can move on. And I also put in her ear about go Oregon. Put it out there. Let's destroy mass incarceration. Let's bring some restorative justice to black and brown people in this country by stop arresting 1.4 million people, mostly of color, for simple possession of drugs. Let's drive a wooden stake through the drug war. So at least I put that in her ear and hope, and I believe strongly, because she was very receptive, she will take it to the boss and say, this is what you need to do on January 21st. And I say it's as simple as a stroke of a pen. The head of the DEA can change the scheduling by him or herself.
Boom!
Fascinating.
What have we been saying?
Bam.
Is it true, Howard? Is it true, Howard, that the statistics, despite what you just described as, however many states legalizing, that the number of arrests for marijuana nationwide continues to go up? Is that a true fact?
It did go up in 2019, despite at that point 11 states legalizing it. What it is, our colleagues in West Virginia and other places are getting in their last hoo-has, if you will, joy of hurting people by arresting with marijuana. They're getting their last hurrahs in because they know the end is near, and these are bad cops who shouldn't be having a badge and a gun, but that's the way it is.
What's the state that
Still doing it in Michigan too, a little bit.
The police department sued to overturn the passing of a marijuana?
South Dakota.
Was that what it was?
South Dakota.
Wow. Jamie, will you want to ask a question or two? I'm sorry, I've taken all the time. I still want to keep going, and Jim's telling me we got to take a break. But Jamie,
we had to take a break 15 minutes ago.
You answered my question about the taxes, and I agree. It's just confirmed, and I really appreciate it. Excellent discussion. Thank you.
Welcome.
Howard, any other final question that I should have asked you that I didn't?
Well, it's the general attitude, the general atmosphere in Washington, D.C. is, they follow the people. There's essentially no leaders here. For all the yelling and screaming about Bernie Sanders, until a few years ago, until 2015, he was silent on the marijuana issue. He never introduced a bill to apply the 10th Amendment, nothing. It was just the House had the bill with Ron Paul and Barney Frank and some others since then. But there's almost no leadership here. They follow the people, and that's why I'm excited about Kamala Harris, because she's at least listening to the people and following them to where they want to go. 7 states have defelonized. Now we've got one that's decriminalized, and we just have to put pressure on these people and say, hey, I will support you when you say treat simple possession as a parking ticket.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
how about Debbie Dingell? Whoever thought she'd come around, right? No, she's like the last, right? She's an automatic now, right?
She's part of the Democratic
Cannabis Caucus.
Party that will vote for 10th Amendment.
Right.
She would vote for the MORE Act, yeah.
All right, Howard, you've been fantastic. I could go on for hours. I may just call you to talk to you later on if you don't mind. I'll get your number from Steve. All right, listen, you've been fantastic. You are a champion, a trailblazer cowboy. Love your shirt. And keep at it, and we'll look forward to checking in with you soon. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Howard.
You're welcome. And like I say, the next big thing in 2021 and beyond is going to be drug decrim. I want to get it in all 50 states, and of course at the federal level to act as a lighthouse. So I'll be working on that all 2021.
Excellent.
All right, sounds good.
Keep at him. It's only got to get anything done.
We'll probably reconnect in a few more months and have you back on.
All right.
Okay, anytime, guys.
All right. Thank you, Howard. All right, so we got to take a break,
care.
Jim?
We do.
Let's take a quick break and regroup. It was Howard Wooldridge.
It was great.
That's great. We got all the answers.
Yeah. He always has the answers.
He does. All right, we'll take a quick break.
You guys want have any pictures of me on my horse? You could put up there.
Please,
in the corner?
awesome.
We
Want
definitely.
to see
will.
Trailblazer?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
We've already put him up. We got one up right now, actually.
Yep.
It says,
There it is.
Cops
Yeah.
say legalize pot.
That's right. That's what I was thinking about when it was trailblazing. He's like ready to get out. He's trailblazing.
Yeah.
As the horse rides out, there's fire on the trail. Isn't that what that means?
In the introduction of smoke signals is a discussion of the famous
Yeah.
trip across the country and back. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good intro. Real good intro. Yeah. If you want to be on TV, ride a horse.
There you go.
Y'all take care. Good night.
All right, see ya.
Howard.
All right. Well, let's go to break. You're listening to Planet Green Trees.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strains, products, and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Thank you. Dr. Bud Green here. Welcome to our...
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, and even after the will of the voters was decided and the support was enormous, he still continued to fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
Hi, my name is Jim Powers with Michigan Parents for Compassion. You are watching Planet Green Trees. Planet Green Trees is the #1 podcast for marijuana and marijuana-related discussion in the state of Michigan. We've been at it for over a decade. There's no greater place to get your news, and there's no greater host in that we have attorney Michael Komorn, who you should absolutely call and contact for all of your legal needs. Planet Green Trees is the #1 marijuana show in the state of Michigan. Tune in to Planet Green Trees every Thursday at 8 p.m.
Here's Michael Komorn with more Planet Green Trees.
I guess.
All right, we're back. We are back.
Okay, we're back, by the way. Have you been there the whole time?
Oh, I
Ellie?
just came back.
Okay. Well, we're just talking to you at that exact moment,
Well,
ironically.
I'm leaving again.
Okay.
Alan just woke up.
All right. We're going to play some
So
trivia.
welcome back.
We're going to play some
Ooh,
trivia. How
trivia.
about this, okay?
All right.
The rule here is not to yell out the answer because that would be disastrous, okay?
Yeah.
Some of this is historical. Some of this is Michigan specific.
Yeah.
Some people may not have even know what I'm talking about because my mind's weird. I'm making up some of these questions. And so we got to figure out a way that somebody can, I mean, we can do the raise the hand in the Zoom, but I don't think that's fair. We just have to look to see if someone thinks they have the answer and they raise their hand, and we'll give everyone a chance. I don't know, because once the first person gives it, it's either going to be right or wrong.
That's right.
All right. So
That's right.
here's the first question. Who was the first attorney general to write an attorney general opinion about marijuana in Michigan?
Ooh.
Jim Powers' hand went up.
Mike Cox.
That's correct. What cities that had dispensaries were the first rated in the state of Michigan? There are two of them.
Ooh. Oh, you have to name both or just one?
Both.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Williamsburg.
I should say and criminally charged.
I think still was Daggett. I think Daggett.
Right.
Good question.
But the first two?
What, are you thinking the Lapeer Big Daddy one or whatever? Just kidding. Yeah, I was trying to lean towards the Ferndale Waterford, which was the Oakland County. That to me was like more.
That
right.
Ferndale was the one that stood out in my mind.
Waterford was Bunzanzo's.
No. There was a Waterford case.
Yeah.
Oh.
My.
Candy and Candy Joe and.
I mean, yeah. There's still at
two places. Yeah.
Brian Vaughn.
Yeah.
With the doorman and stuff. Later. All right, that's what. How about? And I don't know, but in my mind, this is it. Who are the first persons that we knew that to be arrested for medical marijuana in the state of Michigan?
The guy that went by King Diamond or whatever, he was one of them, right? And Bob Redden was one of them.
Yeah.
And Tory, of course.
Tory, yeah.
Yeah, Bob and Tory.
Okay, that's some of the Michigan for those listening. Let's see how some other goes. What is the first country to legalize recreational cannabis in the universe, in the world, I guess?
Was it Uruguay?
True. Although, if I'm not mistaken, North Korea has never made marijuana illegal. It's always been. It's one of the few countries that.
Yeah, they love their weed in North Korea.
That's certainly a place you'd like to gamble with it.
No,
they're not.
And
They're not influenced.
Any place, North Korea is certainly a place you want to test the boundaries.
Yeah,
that's right.
Good idea.
They're not like influenced by the UN and shit like that, and they really have not seen any real issues with cannabis use. In fact, I think the workers are a little bit better off when they have it around. So that's why that hasn't been a big deal there.
Imagine that. Hasn't been a big deal.
Jamie's been studying North Korean politics and social farming, and it developed his opinion after much studies where he can simply say that the North Korea is not a bad place because they smoke. No, I'm kidding. It's funny. It's like you're so opinionated on it.
It's better than as horrible as it could be.
No, of course. It's just it was like the cannabis opinion for all things, like global politics, world, like international farming, Anyway, so
yeah.
Here we go.
Here we go.
True or false? The Declaration of Independence was or was not drafted on hemp paper. True or false?
True.
Who was that?
It's an urban legend, accordingly, and unfortunately, it's just a legend. I don't know. I don't know what the source is. What source am I reading from? It could not be true.
I was wondering why the long delay. I mean,
I thought that was true.
It is true. The reason we know it's true is that back then 90% of all paper usage was hemp paper. The final draft of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution was put on parchment.
That's right. That's what it says right here. So it's a urban myth.
Urban myth.
But the drafts were on hemp paper.
That doesn't count.
First drafts.
That doesn't count, Alan.
But that was the question he asked, though.
Whether the drafts were on the...
No,
drafts were...
I asked, is it true?
Alan's trying to stick up for me over here.
I know.
He's trying to get me in the Zoom room,
He just asked about the Declaration of Independence, and Alan leaped to the drafts.
This is what happened.
He did.
That's what happened.
When you answer the wrong question, you blame the person asking the question that they asked it wrong. That's what he's doing. I get that, Alan. Touche.
I'm answering exactly what I think I was asked.
I just want to get Amanda in a breakout room.
All right, take it easy over there.
Amanda.
There's a guy that looked like you that came in here a little while ago. It was the craziest thing. Yeah. You were like, okay. Here you go.
It's like a Ross
True or
Safari
false?
and Santa Claus.
Check him out.
True or false? Beer and cannabis are cousins. Now think about the family tree.
True.
That's
Yes.
True.
How is that?
Hops.
The hops.
those hops, baby.
Hops, which is humulus lupulus, not to be confused
Humulus
with
lupulus.
not to be confused with hummus. Humulus
Lupulus.
Which is also delicious.
and cannabis are both members of the Cannabisaceae family.
Oh.
Cannabisaceae.
Contain terpenes and terpenoids.
Yeah.
But hops lack the
Psychoactive effects.
Right, there you go.
But
No wonder I used
still,
to like beer.
And it's quite bitter. Quite bitter.
I mean, this is silly, but it doesn't. So.
I think they've got THC infused beer now, don't they, Jamie? Isn't that the thing?
It exists, yeah.
Yeah.
What year was the first year that the arrest for cannabis possession took place, and name the state?
Oh. Can I look it up on Google?
Would have been 1937 and probably Virginia.
I think it was Missouri.
Or 1938. It had to be 38 because it was illegal in 37. 38.
1937, Denver, Colorado.
What?
Oy.
How's that possible? I guess they weren't so progressive.
Mr. Samuel R. Caldwell.
Oh. Sammy Call? Oh, that's too bad.
Unreal.
It's too bad.
Bad news.
That's what started it all.
Yeah.
Name the length of time in the United States' history and pre-formation, the number of years that cannabis was illegal?
Illegal?
Yeah.
None.
Well, since 1937 till now.
Yeah, but not before then.
Right, exactly. It was legal all the time.
Yeah.
It's an important historical fact, right? A lot of people may not realize that.
Yeah.
Why did it become illegal?
Because of Anslinger, he had nothing to do after
They were
Prohibition wrapped up.
Justify his job.
He was
That's
about ready
right.
to lose his job.
He had
so
to do something. Might as well
we made
pick
some
on the
shit up,
minorities.
and they
you
believed
know.
him.
Yeah, that's right.
He needed some attention to get away from the closet that he was hiding in.
Yeah.
William Randolph Hearst, Treasury Secretary Mellon, they were all part of it.
Yeah.
What is the earliest evidence of human cannabis consumption?
The earliest evidence?
Was that stuff discovered in Israel? With they found some religious hashish.
That was the more recent one. This may be, yes,
There's this 5,000-year-old, a couple of things. The thing in Israel, and there's the Chinese shaman. But there's this date of, I forgot what, 2,800 something, 2,300 something, in which it's confirmed that
2,500-year-old cemetery in Central Asia, in far west China, and found the oldest concrete evidence of cannabis consumption. Traces of cannabinoids from the area had been discovered previously, but this study was different. It was previously unclear whether the cannabis was used for consumption or ritual purpose. The 2019 study found the cannabis had been burned and contained THC, whereas previous cannabis samples had not.
Huh.
Is it possible that there be trace amounts of cannabis in the air that we breathe?
Sure.
hopefully.
Yeah, especially if you're, around Jamie Lowell.
Is it possible? Yes or no? Someone commit to an answer.
Yes, of course it is.
Probability factor goes way up.
2012 study found trace amounts of cannabis present in Italy's air.
Imagine that.
The study found cannabis wafting around the Colosseum and the Pantheon, as well as in 7 other Italian cities. Researchers monitored 8 big cities of Italy over 1 year, started in May 2010. Ironically, cannabis is illegal still.
Yeah, I mean, you can go to Ann Arbor for hash bash and quickly realize it can
Talk
travel
about
through the
wafting.
air. That's right. That's right. A lot of wafting. They had some drone footage of the
There's
wafting.
some wafting during Giuliani's testimony.
There was. He wafted quite a bit. A little toot, a little waft, and a little COVID, I hear. A little COVID.
Little COVID, and then he went to a court in Arizona and fucking spread the COVID there
Fucking
too. He shut that one down.
Typhoid Giuliani
Nice
over
fucking
here.
work, Giuliani.
Well, I mean, obviously,
it's a goddamn circus.
I know we're doing trivia, but I mean, obviously, this whole thing has been kind of paying off. Every time they keep the confusion and the belief in the air that there's some way this is going to get overturned, keeps on getting donations.
True or false?
Who the hell keeps giving money?
True or false? The first thing ever sold on the internet was cannabis.
On the internet?
Yeah.
That's false.
In the very early days of the internet, 1971 to 72, a group of students from Stanford University Artificial Intelligence Laboratory used an ARPANET account.
DARPANET. Yeah.
ARPANET. To purchase an unspecified amount of marijuana from the counterparts at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. While the money part of the deal was handled offline, the purchase order was placed online, making the very first drug
This sounds
deal.
suspicious to me.
I think they just said, "Hey, we're typing to you over the internet. Can we buy some marijuana?"
I need an eighth, bro.
This is historically significant. I appreciate
Can we buy some weeds?
I think they did. There was no transaction over,
there was
money
no
exchange.
Bitcoin.
Here you go. While North Korea, cannabis is legal in North Korea and has been for hundreds of years. And this is an article I found, and the author seems to be Jamie Lowell. While North Korea is a notably sealed-off country, there are several reports from journalists and defectors that cannabis is legal, cheap, and widely used. Hemp grows wild in the country. They were the second largest producers of hemp behind Canada before the 2017. grows wild in the country, and is not considered an illegal drug. Cannabis use has been common throughout the centuries, with a North Korean goddess named Magamagu
Yeah.
associated with the hemp plant. She takes her name from the Chinese character for cannabis, Ma. M-A. I don't know.
No. Interesting. It's a nice tidbit.
Burn Ma.
Here's a good question for those believers and non-believers out there. When doomsday comes,
yes,
will you still have your cannabis plants?
What do you mean?
I'm just framing the question so I could,
I don't have any cannabis plants.
In anticipation of the world ending one day, 17 countries, including North Korea, have sent 21,500 seeds to the Doomsday Seed Vault.
Oh.
In Norway. These seeds include 31 strains of cannabis
probably
and
a good
8
idea.
strains of hemp.
Yeah,
They're being kept safe and will be used
to
replant
repopulate
the
the
earth,
world.
fauna. Once we humans destroyed all, the USA hasn't contributed any cannabis or hemp seeds. Good job, USA.
Motherfucker.
North Korea's kicking our ass. How can we
course they
say
are.
we're
Of course
not
they are.
third world?
If we tried to contribute the one strain they are using in Mississippi, they probably wouldn't. Really...
Yeah, they say sorry. We got some good. We got some good.
We're full.
We got some good North.
Korean.
We got some good North Korean over here. That should be a strain. The North Korean, really. 200-year-old seeds. Been like. They probably do. They're probably there's probably the one country that still has. They probably have the decorticators, right? There's not a lot of those going around, but they have them and use them. And it's too bad we don't know that information, Alan. They arguably could still be using it as a cash crop, the hemp. What do you say? I know you were. Weren't you either abducted? Was it an alien abduction or North Korean abduction? But I thought you had some information on this. Which is it?
Either way, there was a probe involved. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I was probed, that's for sure.
Well, what do you know about hemp in North Korea, Alan?
I think that hemp would be very good for North Korea, but I don't have any personal knowledge. I've never been there.
Do you think that there's? Here you go, Alan. You heard Jamie pontificating over there, asking to be disabused.
Probed.
Do you think that the reason we don't see so many North Koreans fleeing, and there hasn't been protests and riots, and as terrible as we understand it to be, we don't know. They haven't revolted, is because cannabis is legal.
Yes, that's got to be the reason. And to take it a step further, could you imagine if we allowed cannabis in our prisons? We'd probably have a lot less prison riots.
Well, doesn't that make an argument for the antagonist that would say, well, you want a population that's going to be okay with being at the mercy of a dictator with no, democracy, no capitalism, just to smoke some weed and let it run rampant? Tomato? Would you trade in the tomato plant model of marijuana to live in North Korea? That's a good question.
No, I wouldn't.
Okay. I mean, who knows? I mean, forget that for a second. But do you think there's anything to that, Jim Powers? Do you think that there's trace amounts in the air of cannabis in North Korea?
Yes.
Well, let me finish my answer. I would rather have it illegal and live here with our other freedoms in the United States than live in North Korea where cannabis is legal. And I realize there's some risk if it's illegal of going to jail for a harmless plant, but we've got Michael Komorn here to protect us.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. What do you think about that, Jim? Do you think that these smoking of cannabis
I
or the
think
trace
as much
amounts...
as it's you protecting us, I think you might see Alan at the bond hearing.
Listen,
fairness.
I know. That's funny. That's funny. That's true. That's true. Alan is my man, and he will wear that cannabis pin into that court proudly. He does. He likes to let the judges know how stupid they are.
And a belt made from hemp.
My question, Jim, what is there to this concept or conspiracy that the North Koreans are placated? They're walking down the street, they're picking a tomato, taking a bite, they're lighting up a joint, and they're fine. And then they say something bad about the government, they get thrown in jail, nobody says anything. Here, smoke some more cannabis. Is that going on?
Yeah, probably. It's going on in most places, honestly. But, I mean, I believe it's legal there. And It's fine. It works for them, and that's great, and it can work for a lot of other countries if they.
It's too bad that we don't have access to. We almost need to invade there just to get that data because they got 200 years of the plant growing free. It probably has an environmental impact, right? Probably certain.
Maybe we can ask Dennis Rodman for the inside track.
I mean, just for that reason alone, we should probably invade. Just because it's like you've got all these other countries that have been prohibiting it.
Yeah. I'm sure that'll go over really well. It usually goes over pretty well when we invade other countries.
I'm advocating the. No, I'm kidding. But
there's still a few more days.
Yeah, there is. So
it's time to get a war going, up and running.
Plenty of time. It's good.
All right, so we're kind of on time. We can get into some other topics here. We talked about Howard. We got Steve Angelo's calling back on another day.
Yeah, he'll call back
on another day. Worthy. We talked about her.
Yeah.
Firearms become illegal with medical marijuana possession. That's some repurposed stuff. It was. I don't know that any police officer in the state of Michigan has said this.
Mm-hmm.
There may be local police officers that when you go to get your registration for your pistol, they may tell you that... Has Alan been abducted now? He was there, now he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. He used the little boy's room.
Okay. But...
Nose is off.
But this particular article that I'm referring to was a very outspoken... Was it in Missouri? Where was it?
Yes, it was in Missouri.
Firearm in Missouri is fairly easy, but signing up for medical marijuana card or using the substance can take that right away. Captain Sean Colley with the Buchanan Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Office Drug Strike Force said it will even make a legally obtained gun illegal to possess.
Oh, really? Huh.
The assumption is if you get the marijuana card, you are a user and you are prohibited. I think that's going to be a big thing in Missouri, especially.
It's interesting.
I like sentences that end in especially, because it tells me that whoever said this is stupid.
Yeah.
People have to understand you're getting that medical marijuana card, you're giving up your gun rights. He said, especially. Just kidding. I don't know if that's. I don't know. Can anyone tell me if they know that anyone from the Michigan State Police ever went out and pronounced this?
No.
There's never been a declaration of this.
No, there's been plenty of officers that, like you said, that in in interactions with the public that have said things similar to this. But I'm unaware of any agency in the state that has.
In Michigan, I've heard it in other places. Have you heard any? Can you think of a time where there's like a Michigan State commander, where they pose the issue to someone, put it, you have to get to the bottom of it?
No, because it was always clear to everybody. The Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, along with MRTMA, are both very clear that shall be denied no right, and certainly the right to possess a firearm under the U.S. Constitution, the Second Amendment, falls within that category.
Well, if there's any issue that the federal government could see it otherwise, make an issue, it's because it's Schedule 1.
Yes. Yep.
Okay? That's number 2.
But that's the federal government.
Even though we have the ATF that oversees the firearms, the gun issue and registrations is at the state level, right. Alan, right? This is not a federal. It's kind of like alcohol, right?
Right now, the registration of the gun isn't the problem. It's the fact that when you go into...
No. I'm saying the reason why someone would say you can't have a gun is because they would say marijuana is a Schedule 1 at the federal level, and the ATF says blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
But the reality is you're in a state that's selling it for tax. It can't be a Schedule 1.
Right.
It's
and if you go to any one of these stores, well, I shouldn't say anyone, but there's many of them that have armed security on the premises. I mean, it's comical. Absolutely comical.
Well, I think there's a distinction that's being made between a caregiver or being around it, selling it, and using it. The theme of the patient is that it's a Schedule 1 and therefore use it. There's no medical reason to use it, no reason. It's drug addiction. It's highly addictive, whatever. That's the stupid theory. I don't buy into it, and nobody should. And I just thought it was interesting. The reason that article got chosen is because this officer was so outspoken, and I wanted to point out that he ends sentences especially.
Well, Missouri, they do it differently, I guess. But whatever. This is just one more reason that it should be descheduled, and all these problems go away, because it is a problem. I mean, I don't, it doesn't impact your ability to possess a firearm in state level or to get a firearm license, but certainly it impacts your ability to go into a federally licensed dealer and obtain a firearm. And, that is where all of this stems from. And it goes beyond that. The fact that it's federally illegal continues to stifle any progress, any meaningful progress in the states, regarding the medical use of marijuana.
Yes. James Tate and Duggan announced that the summer 2021, they're going to be eligible for the Detroit recreational license. Jamie, you got any comments or thoughts on that?
I do like the teeth on the social equity side of this approach. And I just hope that the arguments and lawsuits and those types of things kind of get resolved in a way that just kind of allows us to go forward without spending a whole lot of extra money or taking a whole lot of extra time.
All right, let's do this. Ian, this would be a good way to kind of compare how Michigan's doing in our recreational medical laws, and we'll talk about that in the context of the differences of Arizona's recreational and marijuana. And just so people that know, I have no interest in Arizona.
I've been to Arizona.
It's a nice, I think a good golf course.
Their laws actually,
I'm not knocking
it was a lot like ours for a very long time.
Let's look at it. On November 3rd, they passed Prop 207 to legalize marijuana for adults older 21.
No, I'm talking about their medical laws.
I know we're going to talk about that. Let's see.
Not their rec.
Arizona is now can legally possess, grow marijuana, cannabis, purchasing recreational marijuana will no longer be legal. Let's say it's expensive, but they can't be selling marijuana until they get past the license. Okay, here we go. Listed below are the comparisons between Arizona's medical marijuana program and recreational. Age. There's no age limit for becoming a patient, and apparently no extra signature required.
That's right.
However, you got to be 21 years of age or older, similar to alcohol. Michigan, recreational the same, got to be over the age of 21.
Yep.
And 18 is the age for a patient.
Oh, unless you have two signatures.
Unless you have two signatures. There's a requirement for you're under the age of 18. You have to have two. Man, am I right about that elevation station?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Purchasing marijuana, medical marijuana patients can currently purchase up to 2.5 ounces every 2 weeks. Recreational marijuana consumers will be able to buy up to 1 ounce with no more than 5 grams being concentrate and extracts per transaction at a dispensary. I don't hear a preclusion there for looping. Does that mean you couldn't go to another place and buy another ounce of whatever?
Sure, that's exactly what it means.
All right, fine. So Michigan, of course, allows the purchase of 2.5 ounces from a retail place.
Yeah.
Patients can carry 2.5 ounces of usable marijuana. The measurements for concentrates for solids are every 1 ounce of flour, you can have 8 ounces of solid, 16 ounces of liquid per every 1 ounce, 40 ounces of solid, that means, right? That's how that would add up. Pricing.
Wait a second.
What?
The equivalents in the Medical Marijuana Act are 16 ounces of solid for 1 ounce of usable marijuana and 30 ounces of fluid. But there's nothing equivalent for that in the Adult Use Act. The Adult Use Act just says you can have 2.5 ounces of marijuana. So if you want to buy brownies, you can buy 2.5 ounces of marijuana in your brownies. It could be,
which is nice.
5 pounds as long as it doesn't have more than 2.5 ounces.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
Packaging not included.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Pricing. It is currently unknown what dispensaries would charge. Okay, the price of medical marijuana will likely be the same. Dispensaries are selling medical, blah, blah, blah. Some states have the cost for medical marijuana decreased when the sales for recreational marijuana laws were implemented. Jamie, the same is being said in Michigan. Would you agree?
I guess I don't quite understand the question.
They don't know what the prices are. They obviously don't know now what the price is going to be, but the trend has been that as the recreational market begins, those prices remain higher, and the pricing for medical marijuana goes down. But in Michigan, that can be said because there's no excise tax, so the purchase price doesn't include that. They could be charging more. Do you guys? Well, let's ask Amanda.
Well,
She knows.
there is some trends going on, which the MRTMA program is definitely outperforming. It's it took a little while to build to that, but that's where most of the action is now, and that seems to be building.
All right, so patients buying medical marijuana and currently state and local taxes. However, with recreational marijuana, there's a 16% excise tax plus state and local sales taxes. Waiting. Demand for recreational marijuana will be very high, so most dispensaries will likely create separate lines for medical patients and recreational. It's not like that here.
There's no need for that. I mean, there are separate programs, obviously, and they get processed through different record keeping things, but it's a flick of a button as to which program it's being the transaction is taking place within. And you don't need to have a separate line for that.
Cultivation. Medical marijuana patients can grow marijuana under specific rules. Recreational marijuana can be grown by persons 21 or older, but cultivation is regulated to 6 cannabis plants per individual, primary resident, and 12 plants at a residence where 2 or more persons 21 or older. I'm taking that to mean that no time can they have more than 12 plants, and only in situations where you have 2 adults. Michigan allows for 12 plants at the residence. The water has not been tested yet whether each individual can have 12 plants, and the other water that has been tested is in addition to your 72 plants in the basement caregiving, can you have an additional 12?
Well, I don't know maybe you got a different angle on it, but I think it's 12, no more than 12 plants
per house.
Per house. Yeah. And so the difference there would be if there's only one person living in the house, that person could have 12 plants. If there's one person living in the house in Arizona, that person could only have 6 plants. You need at least 2 adults to get 12 plant max.
And as it should go, if you did have 24 plants, twice the amount of
2 houses. You better have 2 houses.
No,
well,
it's
a civil infraction.
It's a ticket.
That's what I'm saying. Like the nuances, but I'm not inviting or suggesting. Public use. No, here we go. Potency. Medical marijuana patients can purchase marijuana with any potency. Recreational users can purchase marijuana with any potency except for edibles, which will be limited to 10 milligrams of tetrahydrocannabinol per serving and 100 milligrams per package. Jamie says, who cares? THC is like bench pressing for working out, right?
No, when it comes to edibles, I'm not sure if I say this. I say that for like flour and concentrates because that's what I've noticed. But that's also what the study supports. That's in JAMA that was part of the Vice article recently. So I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. I forgot. Short term's up.
You're defending. You change your position that you're very strong on that. THC is not a good measurement. It's like
No, when it comes to edibles, it's a different thing. I mean, there's more than just the THC milligram thing. That is not just completely reliable on its face because there's different types of concentrates. It's infused into different types of things. Different individual bodies absorb things differently, and
right, they react to it differently.
All that kind of stuff. So that's not like an exact thing, but it's different than the THC relevance in just flower or how it is or whatever. But it's something to go on. There's not much to go on. That's why we always talk about self-titrating, somebody to try to create some kind of a consistent product. So if somebody takes the time to determine how it works with them, they can rely on the next version of that and take it as they've been used to. But that's still hard to do even with edibles.
Let me try to encapsulate what I think your message is, because you've advocated for a long time, and we've discussed it with various scientists. Lester Grinspoon, it came up in your show this last time, the Entourage or the Full, whatever. And what we're talking about is that the exclusive looking at the amount of THC is not a way to measure the quality of the cannabis. That we've learned, and scientifically, there's so many other cannabinoids within the flower itself that all play a different part, have a different impact on each individual's system. Why some people may like a certain type of cannabis versus others. Why some people may say, I remember when I had a great bag back in, my sophomore year in college, and I never, it made me feel great, and I was able to, whatever. I mean, everyone's got a story for that cannabis strain or whatever it was that they had, and to really become more knowledgeable about how cannabis can be beneficial for you, or you can get some value out of it, beyond just recreational, is to open your mind to the idea of these other combinations of cannabinoids instead of just focusing on the amount or alleged amount of THC. And you're talking about for flower and for concentrates that one would smoke or vaporize, right, Jamie? But I'm going to say yes. Yes, that's true. You've said okay.
Yes.
Secondly, the other point you want to make is you're not so sure about that or as confident about that as it relates to medibles but it depends what you're looking for. There's
a lot of variables to discuss about the edibles, as Amanda's probably very aware of, and it's not totally reliable to use THC milligrams, but as some kind of a basis, as long as it's not understood that there's many variables that go into it. It's not just completely relied upon. As I said, sometimes it's sublingual, sometimes you're eating it, sometimes it's in dairy fat, which it would really get absorbed into somebody more effectively than some other food that it's infused in. And so there's all these different variables. Somebody ultimately has to try it and then self-titrate and determine how
and there's a lot of factors that go into it. I think there's been conversations and some studies that what you eat before certain fruits may contribute that have these terpenes in it. Amanda, what's your takeaway from this conversation? In interacting with patients, I don't know if you get any feedback on, is it all? I mean, are most of the conversations that patients are asking about, is it surrounding, this kind of intricacy? I know a lot of people need to be educated.
Yeah.
Go ahead, tell me what your experience is.
We actually we see a lot of patients now that are looking at it and they really need the guidance, and they want the guidance. And so, although as Jamie mentioned, the THC content alone is not not the only thing, it's important that they are given the tools to understand where to start, and that's one of the things that we do is talk to them about dosing. One thing that we're working on is putting together like a cannabis-based primary care. So, for instance, if you have an older folk that maybe wants to use cannabis but has never had any exposure to it, you sit down with them, find out what their goals are, what medications they're on, and give them some guidance, tell them these are the options available, this is what we would recommend that you start with. And then of course everybody's body is different and it's going to interact differently with you as well, so we encourage you to journal it. So yes, patients want to find out those things. They want it's gotten to a point where it's moved into more of a medicinal view, and it wasn't always that way. So it's a nice change.
That's nice to hear. All right, so just to finish this up, the public use in Arizona, that's an important issue. It says any type of marijuana use is illegal in public places, but it is only a petty offense for any offender, no longer a felony. Can you imagine the use of marijuana in public as a felony? Jesus.
It's special in Arizona, especially when Joe Arpaio was still around. He always made things a little spicy.
Want to hear something interesting? I saw the interview with him where he denied doing anything wrong. He violated a court order. He was found in contempt of court, went to jail, denied it, said he was framed, and said, why were, he's like, I'm blocking up the bad guys who's not following the law. I said, but you violated a court order. And he says, it was a bad order. I go, but it's still a court order. Then they said, do you know that by accepting a pardon, the United States Supreme Court has said it's an admission of guilt to your crime? He's like, well, I don't know anything about that. And then they kept flashing the holding there against him. All right, so then we got, here's always an interesting, so Michigan, of course, has got Some are arguing public use in public is a misdemeanor, not covered.
I mean, I've heard that argument.
There you go.
Didn't Dana have that discussion up at the prosecutors' conference?
Oh, I'm sure her and Ken Steckert were chumming it up and figuring it out.
Didn't they have a whole 6-hour block on a Saturday on that topic?
The question was asked: can a person smoke marijuana on their back porch, on their private
Was
property?
that question proposed prior to the meeting?
No, I'm saying I remember a lawyer on Let It Rip saying you can't. I think is that right? Remember that?
Yep. Yeah, I don't believe it was the back porch. I believe it was
see
front
it come
porch with that
stop.
particular
Yes.
attorney.
It was.
But
He did say front porch.
I did not agree with what he
I
said.
don't. I mean, if Alan, what do you say as a lawyer? What do you think?
Well, I think that the way MRTMA was written, it only protected possession and not use. So I understand the argument that the Attorney General is making. However, I think that the way Section 15.1 is written, I'm sorry, Section 15 with the penalties is written, I think that
it protects the
use
use. I mean, what are you talking about? There's a possession.
No,
And use.
it does, no, it protects possession. It doesn't specifically say use. So there's that.
It's a
implied.
It's a permissive use.
So you could possess it,
It's
but not use
permissive
it.
use. That's what it is.
It doesn't make sense to say that you can possess it and you can't use it. It's implied. But the fact is, the prosecutors believe that because use is not mentioned in MRTMA, that they can still prosecute a person for use as a misdemeanor. And that's where they're getting that. I believe that at worst it would be.
Why do they want to just
Alan
doing whatever they?
an initiation
so
of
worried about
legislation under state
enforcement?
law, personal possession and use of marijuana. Let me say that again. Personal possession and use of marijuana by persons 21 years of age or older. It does.
21 years of age,
So
Alan.
that's the argument why not possessing it but having your system under the age of 21 that's the argument, the best argument. That
Also ridiculous.
You can charge any presence, Alan. I
No.
disagree with that because when you look later on in the act, in that section that addresses what is the law for driving in marijuana and requires proof of impairment,
Yeah.
they do not specify, nor do they identify an age limit. Whereas the next 4 paragraphs
And they have a
below
whole
it-
section that prescribes, and they have a whole section that prescribes what happens
Yeah,
to
you're
minors.
right. Using over 21 is protected. Using under 21 is not protected.
It's permissive
It's
use is what I would say. Permissive
permiss-
possession and permissive use.
It's
Like, you gotta
civil
be
infraction. You
Well,
know.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
If you're not, if the statute doesn't permit you to do something,
It's
what's
under 21. There's a whole section in there on what happens if you're under 21, and I'll tell you what doesn't happen is you don't go to jail.
But you can be charged with any presence.
Yeah, but it's.
Do you-
Let me pull up the law.
I got it right here. Where you pull it up?
I'm
And it's
pulling it
section
up.
5. I mean, this is an issue that has not been, because what's interesting about that section in particular is that
It's dead air.
I know, I'm looking at some. Anyways, you don't need to discuss that. All right, that's enough. Everyone had enough. I saw you got.
Yes.
Oh, you okay? Fine. We're talking about work. Work, Michigan, bad. No protections. Arizona, none. Recreational law, medical. Okay, that's it. Social injustice still remain. Sounds like it's.
Here you go.
All right, knock it out, Jimmy. What's
A person under 21 years of age who possesses not more than 2.5 ounces of marijuana or who cultivates not more than 12 marijuana plants for a first violation is responsible for a civil infraction.
person under the age of 21?
Yes.
Under
and
the age.
Under the age of 21 and may be punished as follows. If the person is less than 18 years of age, by a fine of not more than $100 or community service, forfeiture of the marijuana, and completion of 4 hours of drug
That's
education.
possession. What about with the ingestion?
What?
The use of.
I don't think that. I don't know. I think the use is implied, because at that point it's internal possession, right? That's what I would.
Yeah, that's where the prosecutors say that use for under 21 years old can still be prosecuted as a misdemeanor.
No, it's a civil infraction. It says it very specifically, unless you're.
Section 4.
I agree, Jim. I agree with you.
Yeah.
You're in look at Section 4. This act doesn't authorize operating.
I know it doesn't, but the penalty is my point. It's not authorizing anything, but it's being very prescriptive about what the penalty is for a minor who is in possession of marijuana, and it's certainly implied that use would be covered. I mean, it's ridiculous because when we were kids, and marijuana was like for real illegal. There was no getting busted for use. It was you got busted for possessing it. I've never met anybody that back then.
No, I wasn't running. I wasn't running kids up to the hospital for a urine test or a blood test because I suspected they were using, and I wanted to charge them with the misdemeanor.
I mean, come on. Let's
there is probably some dicks out there that would go to that extent.
Oh, I'm sure they would. But, I mean, the whole idea, and this was something we discussed at length, especially when we were, even more so when it was still MI legalized in the first petition, that we wanted kids to be protected, and I think they did a good job of making sure.
I heard from Andrew's assistant, and he is going to come on next week. Ooh. So next week we have Andrew on at 8:30.
All right.
He got pulled away, so he apologizes, and he's happy to come on, and we're happy to have him next week.
Well, it's probably better next week anyhow, because Howard really always has a lot to say.
Yeah, agreed.
So it'll be good. Andrew's terrific, so I'm glad he's coming on next week.
Yeah, it'll be a good show.
That's good. All right.
A really good show.
I think
a really big show.
We're calling it. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, you guys.
All right. We'll see you next week.
We'll see ya.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Before you plead, call me, Attorney Michael Komorn.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry. So come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
It's time for Planet Green.
We have launched.
We have completely launched. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan, and nationally, and internationally, and even in Spaceland. There's an argument that we evolved from the cannabis plant. Let's just be honest, okay?
Ow! What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing?
420th episode.
If you're a connoisseur, you're going to want the good stuff. And if you want the good stuff, you're going to go for the mom and pop stuff because that's the good stuff.
It's just a real pleasure to come here and congratulate you on your 420th show, and thank you for having me on a few times over the 420.
Dr. Bud Green here. Welcome to our
Komorn Law. Michael Komorn is one of the top attorneys in Michigan that has experience and dedication in criminal defense law. Komorn Law can take your case from arrest all the way from trial, appeals, and even to the Supreme Court. The team at Komorn Law has the compassion and the experience you can look to for help in your time of need. Komorn Law has over 25 years experience in criminal defense. We have accomplished numerous legislative changes through community involvement and lobbying. Our award-winning law firm has a reputation like no other for keeping overreaching government accountable and in check. We have built Komorn Law for people who need lawyers to stand up to the system, fight back and win. Once we become your lawyer, you become a part of our family. Don't settle for less, just ask our clients. Komorn Law, the best damn criminal defense lawyers, period.